Welcome, selectors, to the Life Force Podcast, where we're going to be talking about Curiosity Diva again, and we're going to be talking about all of the new divas that you can be playing, the new Center L rigs. This one was going to be talking about VJ Wolf third verse alt. Let's see what we're talking about with VJ Wolf. It's a level 3 green L rig, Center L rig. Of course, all the normal stats that you normally have, grow, cost 2, etc., etc. The interesting thing about it is it's got two things that haven't really appeared on cards in green yet. The first one is Ener Charge 1, Enter ability, by the way. Ener Charge 1 for every level of assist L rig on your field, which means that you can get up to 4 Ener, right? It can be Ener Charge. If you have level 2 L rigs, then you can Ener Charge up to 4. And that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, look, anything Ener Charge over 2 is really good. Then you've got the action ability. Once on your turn, you can pay green, colorless, so 3 Ener total, to vanish target signaling on your opponent's field to power 10,000 or more. What's important to note about this is the first time green's ever had reusable removal. And yes, it's a little bit more difficult to pull off than some of the other green removals, mostly as Soagegetsu. But this is still quite good, and the fact that you can do it every turn means that as long as you are getting some Ener, right, you can use this as a reliable Ener sink. You're always going to basically be able to clear out one Ener in there, or one lane in their field, unless the opponent is then playing, for example, less than 10,000s. In which case, you will have a Signy advantage over them. You might be able to use, for example, red or something to vanish that stuff out, or just green Lancer kind of things in general, and it'll end up pretty okay for you like that. Plus, a lot of people are still going to just bite the bullet here and say, screw it, I need the power that comes with level 3s, right? A level 3 is really where my choke point is, where all of my power is starting to come out of my Signy. So they're just going to put out their level 3s anyways, and generally speaking, those level 3s are going to be power 10,000 or more. So, in practice, right, this seems like a pretty big restriction on paper, but in practice it ends up being pretty good. The other one that's pretty interesting is the once a game ability, where you can just have all of the cards in your Ener zone gain multi-Ener for this turn. That's strong, but in a weird way. So there's a lot of cards in the game which are, for example, green, but they have costs that are green-black, or some of them even have Starburst costs, right, where they're all five colors. This one, you could use this card especially in an Elrig deck that's like maybe green, blue, white, and then still be able to pay black costs of your green cards, because it's not technically breaking the rules by doing that with the deck building. So it's a pretty interesting way to go about it. I like the idea that instead of that, which right now there's no real payoff to go in colors that you don't already have access to, especially with Dream Teams being a thing, I kind of like the idea that you can play very greedy in your Ener base instead. Often, for example, I've been recently playing a Deus deck that is about 50% red, and Deus is a black Elrig, and there are times where that is an issue. But having something like this to alleviate those turns, where you can burn off your red that you don't need, and then get yourself, keep your green in there or something wherever you need. That's where I think this could be a very cool place. If there ends up being cards here which are like, pay all 5 Ener, you get a ton of abilities, and you can basically win the game on the spot. Suddenly Wolf is a little bit of a combo piece with that, allowing you to break those game rules a little bit. But as such right now, that I think the action ability is more for allowing you to have flexibility in your Ener costs and be greedy in your Ener costs in your deck building, rather than actually being a great sort of like combo piece here. In the Cockatrice, I've put this deck together that I think is pretty good, and we'll just take it bit by bit. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Elrig deck. So this is Card Jockey. At first, I thought the best version of VJ Wolf might not be Card Jockey, because I just was thinking, like, you might want to add red there. That way, if they decide to not go play into VJ Wolf's ability to remove 10,000 and higher Signy. Then you can start using it, the 10,000 or 8,000 and lower ability that red gives you access to. But the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I was like, well, my issue with VJ Wolf on the last version of VJ Wolf was that I wanted to stuff a lot of red, and I wanted to stuff a lot of white, and I wanted to stuff a lot of green in the deck, and I really couldn't really do that and be that ener greedy. But VJ Wolf allows you to be some more ener greedy. So you'll see that the spells are a little bit more all over the place here. And that's actually by design. I think that you can carefully navigate your ener, and then on the crucial turn, which will be probably turn 3 or turn 4, you don't have the right ener. You just activate your once a game ability and just go ham, blowing out your red. And I think you'll probably be pretty good with that. Or blowing out your red or blowing out your white, right? There's not a ton of green costs in here, and that's got a lot to do with the fact that green's just not necessarily one of the best colors in Wixoss right now. But it's using a lot of the pushing damage things. This is a very, very, very strong mid-range deck. I fully expect that it can go to turn 4 pretty easily, and in turn 5 even. And it actually has one of the strongest things. This is one of the things that you can cheat with Diagram and Card Jockey in general, is that you have access to the 3-stop L-rigs, right? You've got access to MC Line Disrespect as well as in Clap for the Diagram decks. But I figured since you've already got access to such a good L-rig, you might as well just go the whole way, and then Endless Punchline is a really good payoff. We're still using the core of the deck that is from Card Jockey, right? We'll get back to the main deck in a second, which is that we're still using PRJ maps. We're still using some Arkwins, Honials, and Good Digs to really allow ourselves to just sort of dig ourselves down and find and really thin out our deck from level 1s. I believe there's also less level 1s in this deck total. I can do the math real quick, I suppose. But I think I only put down 14 level 1s. Parajulius is actually quite strong, and I wanted to run it. And obviously you're going to run Osagetsune in this type of a deck. But what I actually really like is GGG. So we're losing the ability to really ener charge all the time, and this deck is a pretty ener hungry deck. It uses a lot of it. Like I said before, you want to have an ener. Not only is VJ Wolf an ener sync on its own, there's a lot of things that need ener in this type of deck. For example, Lancelot's, pretty much everything has an ener cost, right? Lancelot, removal for ener. Osagetsune wants to see ener charging and is also removal for ener. PJ Map allows you to narrow down your deck and also, get some spells. Parajulius is you pay ener into it and then it vanishes. Saber Lion allows you to do the same thing. Triumph is one of the only ones that doesn't do anything there. Arquin does that. Exia doesn't do that. Haniel does it. Ishikiri Maru doesn't do that. Servant doesn't do that. And then Tasmanian doesn't do that. Eternal Influence costs ener. Good Dig costs ener. Unbreakable Javelin costs ener. So you can see there's actually quite a bit of ener costs here. And what's strange is you probably are going to be using you're probably going to get at least 3 ener off of GGG, which isn't enough, but it is enough that you can basically go, I get some ener off of my GGG, and then I go ahead and I get some more ener off of my VJ Wolf. And it should be enough to last you to turn 4, which is what you're trying to do with this deck. Turn 5, I guess, is really what you're trying to do. Endless Punchline in this deck is much more of a try to get myself the combo going, right? Like, it's not like we're not an aggro deck as much as we are a mid-range deck. And to fully push that out here, we also have DJ Love It Mix, right? DJ Love It Mix is an incredibly strong L-Rig. It's very underutilized, but that's because there isn't a lot of mid-range decks that also want to play red as an assist in the meta. Although it's a very good one to do so. It basically can open up 3 lanes for 3 ener, and that's pretty incredible. And when it doesn't, you still have access to, other forms of removal. So your 8,000 or less might still not matter. And here's another thing too: you got your 8,000 or less, and then this does 10,000 or less. There's very few Signies that are actually 9,000 power, so you're pretty good there. And I think GGG sort of just like glues it all together for you. Endless Punchline again is going to be hopefully getting you yourself um, 3 damage. In this deck, you are running the bare minimum number of filtering needed to have this function. But the bare minimum usually still gets you there, and you'll still be putting lots of pressure in from just attacking. Lancelots will get you that pressure. Osagetsuns will get you that pressure. Again, remember that you have GGG, so sometimes you'll actually hold off on using Mix until turn 4, right? So you'll get the GGG off of VJ Wolf, and then turn 4 you'll get the GGG off of Mix. Maps, there's not a ton of white here, but there's enough. There's, like, again, the bare minimum number of white that you need in order to hit stuff. And then as far as spells go, 6 spells is pretty okay to find yourself at least 1 spell. What's funny is Projection Map often isn't used until turn 4, turn 5, to find yourself your last Eternal Influence or something, and it can do that. Parajulius, again, you're running GGG, which actually makes Parajulius kind of a threat on turn 2 that no one really is expecting. It's one of the few times that you can pair it with something and do some serious damage. Saber Tiger came out of a strange thought, right? Which is that I needed more green, and I also needed more ways to enter charge, but I didn't want to do things like that one. Oh god, I'm brain farting on the name. There's like 2 bunnies, Signy, that enter charge when they attack, and I just didn't feel the need to play those. I wanted to play something else. The Signy buff on the other Signy on your field get plus 3,000 power. Actually, it's kind of nice when you're running against a lot of black removals that exist in the format. And then this one actually is one of the few times you're actually going to be able to pull off Saber Tiger's ability. Saber Tiger asks you to enter charge 1 whenever it attacks, but then if 3 or more cards were moved into the deck from the enter zone, meaning that you'll need to at least get 2 more. VJ Wolf can do that really easily with its ability. It's one of the few times that it can do that. And then you can pay 3, which is way overcosted, but you get to vanish any Signy. At least that is a upside to it. Is it doesn't have a range that you can vanish. You just vanish anything. It's mostly probably going to be ener, but hey, as a one-of, you could do worse with it. Triumph, because again, I just needed more white Signy, white ener, and I needed more green and green ener as well, so it fits the bill. The Archwains are there just because they help round out the package, but against Deus, there's a world where you're playing your top ends are Archwains and Exias, so it's worth noting that the Shadow is not completely irrelevant. Exia just gives you a little bit of defense, and it's something that you can dig out with some of your other search spells. And that is something that this deck does really well, is search for its lower number amount of cards and pull out the things that it needs. Haniels, because they find you guards really early on, and that itself is worth a slot, not to mention you're using this to filter, so Haniel still gets the nod. Ishikiri Maru is just a pretty good defense thing, but more importantly, it's free filtering for you. And the deck is rather ener hungry, so Ishikiri Maru gets the nod over there. Plus, it's a pretty good life burst. Again, that life burst being filtering itself. Same thing with Haniel. Haniel's life burst is also filtering. So when you add all those things together, you should be hitting your core often enough. I think Good Dug also does the filtering for its life burst. The reason why I really like life burst cards that filter on both ends for Endless Punchline is because some non-zero number of these are going to be in your ener, and they just help you guarantee that you're hitting 1 per game every time. It is also worth mentioning, this does not get said often, is that MC Lion Dig is incredible ener. Like, it's incredible filtering for other Endless Punchline decks that aren't MC Lion Center. And just because Wolf and Love It are not the best centers in the world does not mean that Dig gets any less valuable. Dig is good regardless. It's just better in a Endless Punchline deck because you can filter very, very easily with this. And if you are getting enough whites and enough green here, you should be able to hit all the time. Plus, you have enough green and white, aka this Triumph, in your lower ends that you should be able to filter with it too. Servants, because of course servants are pretty mandatory. Tasmanian, because no one expects Tasmanian is really the answer. It's a very, very good life burst. Vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 7,000 or more. We're trending to having level 1 7,000s more often than not. So this is not such a great life burst to hit on turn 1, but on turn 2, 3, and 4, it's an awesome life burst to hit. Most people will attack with their smallest first, definitely expecting sort of Celebres or Lapises types of life burst. So Tasmanian gets them from a surprise there. It's not an amazing card, but it gets the job done. You're already playing a deck that not a lot of people are going to be able to clock, so you might as well throw the Tasmanian in there, just to make it a little harder to get for them to clock you. Eternal Influence, there's so much removal in this main deck aside from Eternal Influence, but I'm not playing a ton of red that I'm scared to play any more of that. But I suppose you could swap a good dig for another Eternal Influence, or an Unbreakable Javelin for an Eternal Influence. But I do like what Unbreakable Javelin does, which is it makes something power 10,000, and then you can remove it with your ability. Um, Plus, target Signy on your field gains Lancer until end of turn. It's just something to really do, especially if the opponent is avoiding putting out 10,000s because they're trying to get around that type of thing. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like the fact that it's also green ener. I just needed a little bit more green ener. Its abilities is also filtering, which is surprising. I was doing a look through my stuff and saw that you ended up with a filtering spell on here, so it actually is kind of good dig number 4 for the life burst. And I like the filtering type of thing in this deck, like I said before, just because it allows you to have really do for free, narrowing down your deck and making sure you're getting there with the endless punchline. I think this deck is really able to put some reps in. I don't think it's an amazing deck, but I rate it currently C in my tier list, S, A, B, and then C. So I think it can actually do quite a bit of damage. And I think if people aren't exactly prepared and knowing how the new Wolf runs, this might actually be a pretty good sneaker rogue choice to pick from. But I value any deck that can deal a fair amount of damage and also open up lanes, and then also have a little bit of like a 3-stop in it. This does all those. It checks all those boxes. It doesn't check them super efficiently, but because it checks those boxes, it will actually always be a pretty credible deck to play. Let me know how you guys think about VJ Wolf. What you guys are excited if you want to play that. If there's anything else that you're thinking about. If there's other cards that you would have added here, you're going in a different version of this type of deck. Let me know in the comments down below. And remember, if you keep being subscribed, you'll hear more of the decks as they come out. We've got more Curiosity Diva on the way.